Simon the zealot or patriot. You might also have heard of as Simon the Canaanite or of Cana, though that's actually a mistake in the translation. At any rate, he's not to be confused with Simon Peter, but is the other Simon. And today I want to introduce Simon the Patriot as a very particular friend of Judas Iscariot, for the simple reason that in the varying lists of 12 disciples, Simon and Judas are usually listed together. Within any group of people, there are always special friendships, and within the 12 disciples, that would have been no different. Simon the Zealot, or Patriot, was a nationalist. He hated the Romans because they'd made Jews second-class citizens in their own land. The Romans ruled, and Roman laws and customs were to prevail wherever there was conflict. They were brutal rulers, particularly towards the Jews, because the Jews did not submit easily. There had been various uprisings in the past, ruthlessly and bloodily put down. Before he met Jesus, Simon would have been a freedom fighter against the Romans, living in the hills, preparing for the big showdown. When Jesus came along, Simon saw him as the liberator, the one who would save his people, and so he went and followed him. Like Judas, perhaps, he believed that Jesus would become the King of the Jews. And after that awful Friday, no one was calling it good then. It was all over. All hope had gone, and the dream was in tatters. Everything was lost. In fact, things were even worse than they'd been before. They, the disciples, would surely now be hunted down by the authorities and destroyed. Simon had had such high hopes. He and Judas had so often talked about how things would be when Jesus was in power.
Me and Judas. And it was Judas who betrayed our teacher. But why? Because he had found out that it was all a con? That Jesus had no intention of seizing power and becoming king? Jesus had even known what Judas was planning, and he did nothing at all about it. Why on earth did he not stop him? Go and do what you have to do, Jesus said to Judas. What kind of king is that? And now Jesus is dead. And Judas too committed suicide. Perhaps he was right there. Everything else was at an end. Why should any of us go on living? But Judas killed himself out of remorse. He couldn't live any longer with what he had done. In the end, he did believe in Jesus, but by then it was too late and he couldn't alter what he had done. And Jesus, he was never one to deceive, to con people. It was rather that we two, Judas and I, only heard what we wanted to hear. We were so taken up with our own ideas. I suppose I am as guilty as Judas. I could have stopped him, but so could Jesus have stopped him. I don't understand what happened there at the end. It was almost as if Jesus wanted to die. I only know that it is all over.
So much for Simon the Patriot. What about Andrew? Peter's brother, who introduced Peter to Jesus in the first place. In Scotland, we know and love Andrew. But how often do we remember that he was Peter's brother? That Saturday, Andrew was worried about his brother.
Oh, poor Peter. He's making himself ill. He's going to go out of his mind because he denied knowing Jesus when he was asked point blank. At the vital moment, Peter made a mess of things. At least Peter was there. He showed infinitely more courage than the rest of us. What did I do, me? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I ran away when Jesus was arrested, and I hid myself at home. Peter told me everything that happened that night. When I was cowering at home, I just could not do anything. We were all so terrified. Perhaps, we won't ever know, but perhaps if he had not run away, if we had all been there, perhaps we would have been able to do something. But what? Not fight them. Jesus would have been totally against fighting. He was furious when Peter cut off that man's ear, but together the 12 of us could have done something. We could have rallied all Jesus' friends in Jerusalem. Some of them have influence, and at least got someone to plead leniency for him. No, not that either. That wasn't Jesus' way either. It was so typical of Jesus to heal that man's ear when Peter attacked him. That was Jesus all over, noticing someone else's pain and taking time to help them in the middle of such a crisis of his own. Even then, if only Peter could get a hold of himself, pull himself together a bit, then we could do something. Leave this awful place at last and get back into Galilee. Then we could try to do what Jesus taught us, to live as he did, so that his life wouldn't have been in vain. But Peter won't do anything. He just can't forgive himself. Jesus wouldn't hold it against you, I've tried telling him. He would understand. You know he would. But all Peter says is, Jesus is dead.
Now that same day, 2 of them were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem. They were talking with each other about everything that had happened. As they talked and discussed these things with each other, Jesus himself came up and walked along with them, but they were kept from recognizing him. As they approached the village to where they were going, Jesus continued on as if he were going further, but they urged him strongly, "Stay with us, for it's nearly evening, the day's almost over." So he went in to stay with them. When he was at the table with them, he took bread. He gave thanks, broke it, and began to give it to them. Then their eyes were opened and they recognized him, and he disappeared from their sight. They asked each other, "Were not our hearts burning within us while he talked with us on the road and opened the scriptures to us?" So they got up and returned at once to Jerusalem. There they found the 11 and those with them assembled together, saying, "It's true, the Lord has risen and appeared to Simon." Then the 2 told what had happened to them on the way and how Jesus was recognized by them when he broke bread.
Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Were you there
finally, Nathanael. Jesus found Nathanael sitting underneath a fig tree. And Nathanael believed in Jesus straight away, though he'd been highly sceptical beforehand. So what did Nathanael think now? He was confused and couldn't believe it. He simply could not believe that Jesus was dead and that everything now had to be over. He could not believe it. It was impossible that such a thing could have happened. How could it all be over? He'd seen too much, heard too much, experienced too much from Jesus. Jesus wasn't any ordinary person. The way he talked, the way he said nothing at times but just looked, the way he...
But it is true. It has to be. Jesus is dead. I didn't see him actually die myself, but John doesn't lie, and Mary, his own mother. He is dead, and I have to accept that it is true. But it can't. I don't believe it. I can't believe it. Someone like Jesus cannot just end. Jesus was real. The truth.
On the evening of that first day of the week, when the disciples were together, with the doors locked for fear of the Jewish leaders, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." After he said this, he showed them his hands and side. The disciples were overjoyed when they saw the Lord. Again, Jesus said, "Peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, I am sending you." And with that, he breathed on them and said, "Receive the Holy Spirit." Amen.
Were you there when God raised him from the dead? Were you there when God raised him from the dead? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble.